Live from the KATC TV3 studios, this is Acadiana's News Channel at 10.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, the state Supreme Court is considering the constitutionality of a driving law.
As we first told you last night, the driving without lawful U.S. presence statute forces drivers to prove their citizenship or face a felony charge. In Lafayette Parish, in the last 5 years, about 300 arrests were made citing that very law. And today, 3 of those people arrested in Lafayette took their case to New Orleans before the state's highest court, and our Aaron Stuber was there in the courtroom. Aaron, any decision today?
Jim, no decisions today. The Supreme Court only heard arguments. That main argument is, does the state have the right to charge immigrants with a felony if they're caught driving without their papers?
The U.S. Supreme Court made it very clear.
In this case, attorneys representing the 3 immigrants are only arguing against the law's constitutionality. But separate arguments involving race and equal protection were also brought up.
You know, the equal protection issue that was brought up was a strategic choice on our part. If we lose here, and if we would lose potentially on an appeal to the Supreme Court, we would bring an equal protection argument in the future. There are obvious equal protection issues, there's potential vagueness issues, and 8th Amendment issues. So this wouldn't be over if we lose today.
The issues of race and equal protection were noted by the state, which argued they're outside the scope of this case.
Racial profiling might exist under this statute, and if it does, the statute should be struck. But
that's not the argument that was here today. The argument here today was that federal law requires that we strike the statute, and that's just not what the federal law says.
It's a statute that was created as an anti-terrorism measure, but none of those arrested under this law have ever been charged with terrorism. And because of that, this case has caught the eyes of civil rights advocates.
Unfortunately, in Louisiana, people are serving 6 months prison time with hard labor. That creates really a feeling of terror in the community, where individuals are being separated from their families, separated from their spouses and children, because they are simply driving while brown and while Hispanic.
Our statute complies completely with the United States Constitution, and that there's no federal law that conflicts or falls within some sort of field that Congress has said you can't legislate in.
And while the decision will not be made before October, both sides are already planning their next moves and expect the case will end up before the U.S. Supreme Court. Live in the studio, Aaron Stuber, KATC TV3.
Aaron, thanks. And another issue the state Supreme Court took up today deals with a ruling last year by the U.S. Supreme Court, which ruled juveniles cannot be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The question now is, should that ruling be retroactive to those who fit that bill already serving life in Louisiana? The Louisiana Supreme Court will likely issue an opinion on that matter coming up in October.